Back with another Savage stream. Thanks everybody for tuning in and liking, sharing, commenting on my videos, and subscribing to my channel. You guys are like friggin' rock stars around here if anybody were to ask me about that. Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Let's see. What we are going to look at tonight is something you have to kind of consider before getting into crypto mining. And it's something that is often, well, sometimes it's overlooked, especially by home hobby miners. And it's how you will handle the heat. And I'm not talking about the heat from the crypto mining profits right now. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the heat from the rigs. Oh, wow. We popped above 50 again. All right. That's looking good. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, so I'm not talking about the heat from the profits. I'm talking about the heat from the rigs. And at the end, we are going to talk about probably the most important factor of all when it comes to keeping your rigs cool. And it might actually be a little bit of a surprise to some people. So yeah, cool stuff. Let's jump right into it. Whenever you are mining, you know, oftentimes you are using a lot of the GPU's capabilities, right? You're using the memory, you're using the processor, you know, the GPU itself, you're using the memory. And sometimes it can be even more taxing than gaming, depending on the algorithm that you're running. And here you can see like a quick graphic of the proof of work landscape. And you can see compute heavy to the left and memory heavy to the right. And this just kind of gives you an idea of the different algorithms that could, you know, tax your GPU the most. Okay, so some algorithms use both compute and memory. Some of them are focused more on memory, like EPASH or ETC hash. You know, RandomX and those let's see, CryptoNote type coins also, or CryptoNote algorithms are compute heavy. You know, so you have to kind of look at what you're mining and whether or not how it's going to affect your overall GPU. So that's just something to consider. You got to kind of think about that as you move forward in the mining arena. And the cool thing to remember is that pretty much all the power consumption that a GPU has is actually turned into heat, right? So you know, we'll talk about this in a minute, but it's kind of a neat little fact. So whenever you are looking at a GPU specs, for example, you can see that oftentimes you'll see thermal design power, or it might be called thermal board power. I've seen that recently. Nonetheless, it represents the maximum amount of energy that the GPU can consume and still dissipate the heat effectively. It's not saying that that is the maximum power that this GPU can consume, because you can actually get it to consume more power and be more efficient by keeping it way cooler, right? Like with a water block, or you know, if you're in Siberia or something like that, then there are instances where it could actually draw more power and still be okay as long as it's cool enough. But just keep in mind that that's what the TDP stands for, or that's what the TDP represents, is how much power the GPU can consume. Because remember, power is drawn, not forced, right? It's not given to, it's drawn from the device itself. So it's the maximum power that the GPU can consume and still dissipate the heat effectively from the device. And that comes into how the coolers are designed for the GPUs and all the different factors that go into play there. In some, like I was saying, in some really extreme cooling scenarios, you can have this card consume even more and still be okay and actually increase your hash rates and mining performance. But those are like extreme cooling scenarios. Water block, what's that called? Submerging, whatever that's called. And so yeah, there's all kinds of different ways. But basically, you can look at every watt that your GPU or mining rig consumes is turned into heat. There's a little bit of loss there. There's some, you know, that'll be lost in other devices, power supply and all that stuff. But for the most part, if your mining rig is consuming 1500 watts, this is just an example. If your rig is consuming 1500 watts, that basically means that you have a 1500 watt space heater in that device. Okay, so meaning that if you put that rig in a room that could be heated by a 1500 watt heater, space heater, then that's essentially what you have. So, you know, a lot of people, that's kind of like a shock to some people. They don't understand that things get hot. The mining rigs get hot, and that's like usually a shocking revelation to new miners, but it is true. I can remember the first time I turned on a rig, I'm like, what is this thing doing? Because it was so hot, you know. I was like really surprised. So you want to keep your temps as low as you can, but the normal mining temperatures are usually like 60 to 70 degrees Celsius. You're probably not going to get much less than that while you're actually mining, depending on the algorithm. Obviously, there's a lot of factors here, guys. You know, there's a lot of differences depending on the algorithm. But for the most part, you're probably not going to see less than 60, although I've seen less than that on a lot of recent videos, and people are getting a lot cooler. The newer GPUs are getting a lot more efficient. I get it totally. There's one factor that a lot of people leave out, though, that is the most important, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So optimally, you should run the GPU mining probably is going to be around 65 degrees Celsius. And that means that you're probably going to be in that sweet spot for efficient hash per watt and all that kind of cool stuff that we all worry about whenever we're crypto mining. And then you might be wondering, okay, so can I actually damage a GPU by keeping the temperatures too hot? The max you'd ever want to really see is like 80 Celsius. If you're getting over 80, then you're probably in some really dangerous territory, especially if it stays there for a long time. Now, if you spike to 80, you know, I think you'll be okay, but you don't want to run a rig at 80. Now, I don't have my door closed right now, so the rigs are running okay, but if I close my door, I will start seeing some 76s, some 77s, you know, and stuff like that. So, you know, kind of give a clue as to what the situation here is as far as the most important factor. So, yeah, so the most you'd ever want to see is about 80. It kind of depends on the GPU manufacturer too, whether or not they are going to start thermal throttling. I know that we've seen some stuff. I don't have any of the newer GPUs, but we have seen some videos like from Serpent over here, Serpent X Special Forces. He did a video on the RTX 3080. So there are some issues with thermal throttling, and I think that in this particular case with the newer NVIDIA GPUs anyway, they are thermal throttling a little bit early, like almost too protective, and it's causing problems with mining. So in order to fix that, you have to do thermal pad installs on the backplate and all this other stuff. And this is a good video here that Serpent X was going through that. I'll drop that link in the chat over here real quick. I'm not going to get distracted by chat. Immersion, yeah, there you go. Thanks, Nemesis. Submersion. That's my word, man. I make it up. I make it up as I go. All right. So yeah, cool stuff. Go check out that video from him once you're done watching this video or this stream. And let's see here. Yeah, so the NVIDIA GPUs seem to be thermal throttling a little bit too cautiously, right? And it's affecting the mining performance, although, like I said, thermal pads can fix that. So what can you do to actually lower your GPU temps to less than 80 degrees Celsius? Well, the first thing that you'll want to look at is airflow, the airflow over the rigs. Remembering that, you know, it's really better. A lot of people kind of get this a little bit backwards, but it's better to worry about getting the hot air off of the rigs than actually putting cold air on the rigs. Okay, and we're going to get to that, we're kind of going to get to that, why that's the case. But the first thing you should really think about is evacuating the hot air. Get it out of the space, especially if you're at home, because typically your home is going to be a little bit cooler And as long as you can get the hot air out of the space, then you're probably going to be okay with, you know, 1 or 2 or even 3 1,000-watt, 1,200-watt mining rigs in there. So yeah, just focus on getting the hot air off the rig or away from the rigs. And you can change the thermal paste. That can help as well if you believe that like it's been compromised or not applied properly. I've got some that I probably didn't do it right, and you know, those GPUs run a little bit hotter than the other ones. Or it's been like over 2 years old. Now mining, a lot of people will say you need to change it a lot more often than that, but you really wouldn't worry about it unless it's overheating, unless you've got a GPU that's overheating. Then you would consider the thermal paste as some people work it into the overall maintenance of the rig. I do mine probably about once a year or something like that, but thermal paste should last for like 3 years. But that's on like a gaming rig, you know, and that might not be on all the time. So if you're mining 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you know, you might want to consider doing it, you know, once a year, once every year and a half, 2 years, somewhere around there. So but if the GPU is overheating, then that is something that you could actually look at. You can also lower the power levels and the voltages of the GPU in your mining software, whatever that may be. I'm not going to go into like software management or anything like that. This is just overview of what, you know, the different things that you should consider and look at whenever you're trying to cool your rigs off. So you would look at that, lowering the power levels, lowering the voltages in your mining software or your overclocking management software. Most GPUs, especially like NVIDIA, can be lowered to 60% power usage. I know in the past it's kind of been focused on 70, but the new GPUs are a lot more efficient. So you can actually get down to 60% total power, or even lower. Like I've seen some mining videos where they're down in the 50 to 55% range of TDP. That's insane. That's super efficient and super low power. So I like that. You know, that's really cool. Then you can also check for proper fan operation. That's another thing. If you watch my last video, I don't know if it was last night or when it was, but I have one fan that's wobbling like crazy on one GPU. Somebody pointed it out to me. I saw it in the video and I'm like, I'll just let someone make a comment about it so I can chat with them, you know. But yeah, it's like wobbling like crazy. So I guess the bearings are bad in it, and it's one of those crappy Gigabyte fans. So I already ordered a replacement. They basically break about every 6 months on those GPUs. Gigabyte fans are awful. So anyway, so what is by far the most important cooling factor that you guys think? What do you think would make the most difference? I'm gonna pause there just so maybe y'all can throw some answers in the chat what y'all think it is. Because the most important factor, and I've done extensive tests on this with box fans and all kinds of cool stuff, is ambient temperature. Ambient temperature in the room where the rigs are is by far the most important factor. You can put all the air on it. You can try to, I mean, now I'm saying that without like some type of direct air conditioning in that room too, right? Like let's say you have a small room and you throw an air conditioner in the window or something like that. Yeah, okay, you know, that's going to be a factor, but you're consuming more power than I'm talking about without like adding stuff to it. So in like a really good example in my house, it's a little bit warmer in here than most people like their homes. So it is a challenge sometimes to keep the rigs cool, especially in the summer. But I can tell you that whenever it's cool outside and cool in the house, man, it's so easy to keep the rigs cool because of that ambient temperature. You know, I do have box fans. I do have a couple of box fans actually. And you can see that one sitting on top of the rig there. I hate this because there is a vibration that comes from, you know, it's a cheap box fan off of Amazon. So there's vibration coming from it, and I hate it. I need to figure out some type of a little structure or some way to mount it and get it away from the rig, like direct contact like it is right now. I need to fix that. I just haven't got around to it. But if you can see, that fan is on, like, let's say it's on the right hand 7 or 8 GPUs is where, and that fan, by the way, is blowing up. It's not, and that goes back to my thing about getting hot air off the cards. So it's actually blowing up, and above that is an exhaust fan that goes up into my attic. So it's a really good situation that I've got here, and I think Nemesis might, hopefully he agrees with me. I don't know. He's probably like, no, that's not how you do it, because he knows how to really route some air over there. But anyway, so the way I've got it here, you can see that on the left there are 2 or 3 GPUs that are not necessarily covered directly by the box fan, right? It's kind of like over on the right hand side. So my point is if you look at that rig is Kajimi, the top one. So let me go back over there. So that top rig right there is the Kajimi rig in Hive OS here. So if you look at this GPU, 71, 65, 71, 70. Usually it's a little bit cooler than this, but 68, 67. So as we're walking to the left here, these last 3, I'm not going to put my mouse over them yet, but these last 3 are the first 3, depending on how you're looking at it, are those first 3 GPUs to the left right there in the rig. So you can see that their temperatures are more than the ones that have that box fan directly on top and pulling the hot air off of the GPUs, right? And cool air from, below them or from the ground. I do have another box fan that's on the ground, kind of pushing air into the space, cool air into the space. I don't want to have to do that, but it's just, I've got like a vent. I don't think I have enough vents to let cool air in the bottom of the vault here. I think I'm going to have to rethink the way that I'm doing this, but I think I have enough for evacuation. I just don't have enough intake. I think that's pretty much my problem, is cool air intake. There's a vent over there to the bottom left, and it's just not providing enough air, I guess. So I wanted this to be like a closed up room. I didn't want to have it open, but currently the situation says that I have to have it open because of the temperature. So, all right. So yeah, by far, I don't know. Let me check the chat, see if y'all are yelling at me about that. Yeah, I could do that, Golden Wolf. I thought, believe me, every time I go in there and look, I'm like, man, how can I get this thing up off of here? It's kind of I know it's a silly problem, but I just haven't got around to fixing it. It doesn't wobble that much, but it is enough to actually bothers me a little bit, because you shouldn't have something vibrating like that on, GPU mining rigs, right? And it's the whole stack, all 4 of them that are affected by it slightly because of that little bit of wobble, a little bit of vibration there. So, let's see, not too many tags over here. I think we're all right. Yeah, so I was going to do a completely different video. I had other things planned, and I just get on these little, I don't know, I just get distracted and I figure something else out. I don't know. I want to do more. I will, Nemesis, we'll talk. I want to do more Ravencoin videos. I've done a lot of Ravencoin content in the past, but I want to do some new stuff. I think that I got to do a little bit more research on it, and I think I kind of misspoke on, was it Friday night? I think whenever I started, I think it was Friday night, Crypto Fireball. Actually, it ended up being Crypto Screwball Friday because I ran out of Fireball. So I think that it was that night that I was talking about Ravencoin, and I mentioned 3 different, I think it was 3 different roadmap items that had not been done yet, and it was rewards, voting, and messaging. But I think that rewards are done, even though the website doesn't confirm that. Like the Ravencoin website wasn't updated with that information, but I do believe that rewards, I haven't tested it, but I think that rewards are enabled. So what we're waiting on is voting and messaging. That's it. So those two, but the voting is pretty huge too, because it works into the rewards if you're going to tokenize an item. But all this stuff kind of works into what Ravencoin was built for and how it could actually benefit the space right now with what's going on with, you know, transaction fees and all that cool stuff. Not cool stuff, all that stuff. So it's a good platform for mitigating some of that expensive, you know, the transaction fees and stuff. So I think it's time. I mean, we've seen a little bit of an increase in visibility of Ravencoin lately. I would like to see it succeed. So I kind of think that it's time to do some more content on it and see what's up. So that's, long story short, I was trying to do some Ravencoin content, and then I got distracted with the whole cooling thing. So that's why I ended up doing this video. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I think that's it. Let me check the chat, make sure that you guys aren't yelling at me over here. Yeah, yeah, there's all kinds of bad things that can go wrong with vibrations for sure, especially over a long period of time. So, yeah, that's going to do it for me. There you have it, my friends. If you want to be kept up to date on keeping your GPUs cool, maybe GPU Jesus can help us out here. Be sure to click subscribe and all that cool stuff that you guys do to keep the channel relevant. All that cool stuff. I will see you guys, yeah, tomorrow night, most likely. I don't see why not. So stay savage, everybody.